who hated and feared him, used to attribute him to mystical powers that helped him in battle. Many claimed that he had the ability to encase the rifles of his enemies and make all those who rode beside him invulnerable to bullets.
Yo,
Yeah, back
what's
at
up?
it, guys.
Yes, sir. We back at it. It is time. It is time. So, hey, tell me what y'all think about this. And again, like some of these things I pull offline, you don't know how genuine they are from the person. You're really just pulling offline and reviewing, reacting to them. So sometimes people wonder if we, well, no, y'all should do this and that. No, I'm strictly pulling this off the strength online. And we will do some things that are not like this, that will be straight peer review kind of stuff. But this is the diabolical things the Apaches did during the Wild West.
Okay.
So let's get it. I mean, this is always
And always you
like
can
cool
check
stuff.
the History Channel or other historical channels to see if they have anything out there.
If it's something available.
Yeah.
The Apaches were feared for their cruelty, annihilation, and their assaults on men, women, and children, sometimes even taking their scalps as trophies, only to be surpassed by the arms advances of their enemies and forced to live on reservations, never again being able to be free as the wind. Apache tribe was a nomadic people, hunters and gatherers who centered most of their lives around the buffalo. Not only did they eat it, they wore its skin and slept in tents made of the same woolly hide to keep warm. Their diet was based mainly on buffalo meat and the occasional berries and plants that were found along the way, since they preferred not to eat fish or bear because they considered them impure. Apache tribe was divided into several subgroups that even had their own names. Such was the case of the Lipan, Limita, Conjero, and Trementina. Since they didn't have a unified policy, relations with other tribes or nations, such as the Americans, were not good, because while a band of Apaches made peace, another independent subgroup continued attacking the Spaniards, Mexicans, Americans, and other native tribes, generating conflicts and reprisals without any distinction. The Apaches were grouped in extended families that acted independently, led by the most important member, who served as chief advisor and took care of the group's needs. Each family unit of this...
Hey, you see that? You saw that hair?
Ha! Was that a hat or that was his hair?
Wait now. Wait, go back. You saw
that acted independently, led by the most important member, who served as chief advisor and took care of the group's needs.
Yo, but why they...
like his hair?
Hey, man, they flashed by him so quick I can't even hit the pause button.
Apache society was matrilineal, meaning that after the union between man and woman, the now husband moved in with the wife's family, caring for, working, and hunting together with the members of his new group. If, for some reason, the wife died, he could remarry, usually to a sister or a cousin of his former partner.
He'd be like, you know what? I had my eye on your cousin the whole time. It's that time. About to lay it. About to marry her.
Strict and chilling Apache laws. The Apaches have strong beliefs and convictions that bind them to the land and nature. For them, life is sacred, as are their customs and laws, which they comply with solemnly. Whether celebrating a festival or going to war, the rules must always be followed to the letter. Any problem between two members of the tribe that doesn't want to be solved in a personal way should be...
Look at the, what they be having on, man. I'm telling you, man, some of the, between the Indian tribes and African tribes, boy, some of them costumes be creepy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Creepy.
I wonder how heavy they are. Like how they maneuver, how they're able to maneuver in it.
For them, war was a solemn religious matter, in which even no one can refer to any matter related to their common names in any way. Once the council of war has been deliberated and they are already on their way to battle, a dance is performed with the war cries in which only warriors can participate.
Like I said, look at the mask.
Creepy.
Scary.
It is. And the hats too.
But I know a lot of, between the Indian and African culture, a lot of this stuff come from like pagan stuff, but it's
they had guns. I didn't think they had guns.
I was just gonna mention the guns. You know what? I was thinking from two things. Either from, maybe raiding stuff, take over and getting guns off people passing through, or maybe possible trains, or slave trade. Because they ain't talking about it on here, but like you said, man, Indians had slaves too. So you ain't just getting guns. It wasn't no gun tree you can make a gun from. Right. So you got it from somewhere, and you traded something. If you had a vast amount of them, you were trading some stuff for that.
Yep.
participate. When the war party returns from battle, it's customary to celebrate with a dance in which the scalps of the enemy that have been obtained are exhibited. These are raised on a pole or a spear and arranged around a bonfire while the respective dances are performed, all while still maintaining a solemn atmosphere. In the end, these pieces of meat with hair are discarded since they are considered pollutants. Geronimo, the bloodiest of Apache warriors. The history of the Native American is stained by the seed of revenge that began to germinate in him in 1858 after a massacre by a military unit of Sonora was committed against the Apache camp of Kaskiyia, where his mother, wife, and children died. That tragic day would mark Geronimo for life, swearing revenge on the Mexicans. Although
And then look at the housing setup, man. That looks so more
Western to me.
Western
like,
for real. And it's like
cowboy movie.
I mean, it is Western. That is Western. They were in Phoenix.
Yeah.
But you just think about when you look at the lives of slaves and then you look at lives of Indians, just two totally different things, man. Look at the housing.
Free. They hadn't been invaded upon yet.
That look like a column. They got some design. They got some. That look like to me. That look like a system. Brick with a drain system right there behind.
Right. But they also were enslaved once they were invaded upon.
Dedicated mainly to farming. There are different explanations as how Goyale became to be called Geronimo by his enemies. The most widespread and accepted being that the Mexican soldiers who fought against him feared him so much for his bravery and dedication to the fight that they implored Saint Jerome for help. Others say that his first confrontation against the Mexican army was during a feast of the aforementioned saint in the Battle of Cashapp, while others say that it's just a mispronunciation of his name. Those who hated and feared him used to attribute him to mystical powers that helped him in battle. Many claimed that he had the ability to encase the rifles of his enemies and make all those who rode beside him invulnerable to bullets. Despite being wounded,
Bulletproof.
So everybody got a little X-Man essence on them. So you go up there. But how often was that true? Was that had to be just a myth because so he get up and he rubbed that special lotion on him, say, man, y'all bulletproof now. As soon as somebody come up, fa, knock you right off the horse.
Pew, pew.
on several occasions, he always survived, ensuring that no bullet would be able to kill him. He dedicated his entire life to attack and sabotage the Mexican army, killing between 500 and 600 Mexican soldiers. However, in 1861, his struggle would be combined with that of preserving his people and all that they represented due to a war initiated by the United States with the intention of annihilating the Apaches. During this time, the American Army perpetrated atrocities against the population of this tribe, even killing women and children, betraying and forcing the Apache chiefs to seclude themselves along with their people on reservations. For Geronimo, these conditions demanded by the white government were not acceptable. It would be like living in captivity, so he fought and became the biggest problem for the U.S. He became an ideological support for the Apache resistance and a terrible villain for the U.S. citizens in a war that lasted 10 years. In 1871, Geronimo was captured by the Army during a meeting organized by both sides where a momentary truce was agreed upon, but the latter was not respected. The Apache military leader was transferred to a prison for 4 months and then taken along with his compatriots to the San Carlos Reservation, a place from which he escaped on September 30th, 1881, along with 375 Apaches, spreading terror wherever they went.
But let's go back. So that means, so his crew snitched on him, and they linked up with the U.S. and turned that joker in. So they must have, for them to turn him in, it must have been a lot of, for your team to turn you in, it must be a lot you doing wrong on your team side. It must be a lot they can't stand you for if they turn you in.
True.
Because you ride and die by your Apache.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So why would you turn him in unless he was just like diabolical?
Good question.
The next few years, Geronimo dodged Mexicans, Americans, and every mercenary who crossed his path, until he finally surrendered in 1886, cornered by General Crook of the U.S. forces. The Apache leader would still live 23 more years at Fort Still, Oklahoma, still invited to fairs and festivals of the Old West as a celebrity, until an unfortunate accident in 1909, while drunkenly riding a horse, falling off the animal and dying of hypothermia after spending the night outdoors at the age of 80.
Stop it.
80 years old.
He went through all of that and died. That's how he died.
You died of the cold weather.
Get out of here.
No, what happened was, no, let's be truthful. He 80 years old, you hit that ground. That's a long way up at 80 when you hit something.
Ooh.
Help!
I mean, it's not funny, but it's
ain't
like,
nobody around
I
to
was
get
sitting
you.
here thinking, I wonder how he died. He must have, fought to the end on the horse, fell off, and died of hypothermia. I was not expecting that. I don't know. I was expecting.
I want to
something a
know
little bit
what
more
made him
glorious.
fell off. It was a little sciatica.
Oh, stop it! You wrong for that.
But I want.
So wrong.
I wonder. I'm sorry. It's inside joke. But so that all that killing he did, all that being notorious, you died of the cold weather.
The bloody Apache Wars. The rivalries between the Apache people and the United States forces carried over from the first campaign against the natives in 1849, generated armed confrontations between both sides that claimed thousands of lives. The United States wanted to take over as much territory as possible and to tame, so to speak, those native tribes that had been called savages, while the natives of the Great Plains sought their survival and freedom, attacking small towns and farms to obtain food and objects that would be useful to them. At the outbreak of the Mexican-American War in 1846, many of the Apache groups allowed the U.S. Army to pass freely through their lands to invade Mexican territories, maintaining an uneasy peace between the Apache tribes and the Americans until the influx of gold miners into the Santa Rita Mountains led to conflict. The Jicarilla War began in 1849 when Jicarilla forces attacked and killed a group of settlers and continued to commit massacres until the U.S. Army was forced to get involved.
Wow.
Chief Cochise was arrested in Arizona by the U.S. Army on February 4th, 1861, for stealing a rancher's cattle and being accused of kidnapping his son, all false claims, even offering to fetch the child himself. But the lieutenant in charge of the matter took the Apache leader and his wife and children under arrest in violation of the white flag at the trading post. In response to these aggressions, both sides began attacking each other and taking hostages that they finally killed, the captives that Lieutenant Bascorn hanged, being the triggers of the 11 years of war to come, full of suffering, blood, and betrayal, highlighting the murder of the Apache leader called Mangus Coloradus during peace negotiations.
Wow.
The Americans arrested, tortured, and shot him and then beheaded him and sent his head to their allies. Bloody fighting and numerous massacres followed over the years.
Dang. Now that's brutal.
That's
that was
real brutal.
Ruthless.
Including the great exploits of the celebrated Apache leader Geronimo, until his surrender in 1886. The tribes were gradually overcome by American arms and their numerous armies, forcing them to relocate to reservations. Studies on the subject tell us that all these tribes were not 100% what the media has taught us. Regardless of their race and beliefs, it's important to preserve their culture as part of the ideological diversity of our species. Unfortunately, today's society does not really see its value. If we continue this way, cultures like the Apache will possibly disappear, becoming a simple vestige of history. If that happens, we'll be here to tell you at Copernicus's Galaxy. If you like the video,
This was really good.
It was very interesting.
I mean, wow. I liked learning about their lifestyle and,
Me too.
that they had guns. I guess maybe
Me
just not as many as the other people that came to invade their land and territory, but they had guns. I always only thought they had spears and, knives and stuff, but they had guns too. That changes things for me.
Well, that's always been there. Like the fact of them having guns, that's never been anything
Well, I
new.
didn't really know that.
But it was spears was I believe those weapons were more native to them. Like those were more natural weapons. But I like I said, man, you had to conquer somebody or kill some people to or trade some people to get them weapons.
Right.
And you were getting them weapons from the US.
Yeah. The way they fought was brutal, though. I guess any fighting in war is still...
I wonder if you had arms dealers back then. Like, were people dealing arms? They were that
Well,
in
just like
between.
moonshine and stuff like that, I'm sure that,
Moonshine ain't in between. Anybody can make that.
but still, it was still being made and sold, and that was the wasn't all the way legal in some places, right?
I mean, but now guns are different. Moonshine, it was like corn and other stuff. You can make that. Gun, you ain't making that from corn. So, but yeah, that was dope, man. The diabolical thing of the Apaches. I hope that y'all learned something, because we definitely did.
Yes, for sure.
So like, comment, subscribe. Don't take a nose out. Comment down section below, man. It's 2023, man. Let's get some on. Let's get it in.
Yeah.